Welcome into Celtics Postgame Live, everybody. I'm your host, Justin Lowe, alongside Franco and David, my two co-hosts. Ian should be joining us in just a little bit, I believe. The Celtics, it looks like a blowout. In the fourth quarter, it was a blowout, but if you watch the first three quarters, it was actually a very tight game and actually seemed like the Knicks at times controlled the game. But for the most part, the Celtics, an unbelievable closeout for the Celtics in the fourth quarter. Jason Tatum leading the way with 35 points, 21 of those in the second half. Jaylen Brown following with 22. Kristaps Porzingis, 21. Sam Hauser. The list goes on. We'll get to all the guys, but for now, let's welcome in Franco and David, and let's hear what they have to say. Franco, we'll start with you. Go down the line. You know the drill. Starting, how is this game?
How a home crowd always just brings the energy that's necessary to win these games, especially against the Knicks. That was a tight, close game, dogfight. The Knicks are always going to be one of those teams that have our number, and it's going to be a very frustrating series if we have to see them in the playoffs in round one or round two. And they only ran 8 players off the in the rotation tonight. 30 minutes for all the starters. So they relied heavier on the players tonight. So I think in Philly, we're going to see a lot more of the depth players, O'Shea and them, but all the key players contributed. Drew Holiday had 15,000 points tonight, 149th player to do it, which is a big milestone. So this team's just looking a lot better. And Justin's favorite saying, this game wouldn't have been won last year.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, the Celtics, hey, maybe they don't win this game from last year. And listen, I think before, David, you give your thoughts, I really do think, again, the Celtics might be 0-10 if this was last year with the way I'm talking. But I feel like it is true. I feel like the Celtics don't break this open late. I feel like Jason Tatum just went to this whole other level, which we'll get to. But David, I'll let you give your thoughts before we kind of start spewing off and going into depth.
Yeah, so like Franco talked about, the Knicks have really honestly kind of had our number the last few years. There's been a lot of frustrating losses against them. I mean, Think about the double overtime loss, season opener a couple years ago. We had a couple tough overtime losses to them last year. The one where Julius Randle was laughing at Jaylen Brown for missing the free throws. That was one that frustrated me. But no, really, really solid effort tonight. It was a dogfight, but we pulled away. And this is what good teams do, right? We'll get into this, but 9-2 run to end the first half when it just looked like the Knicks could pull away. You know, they probably should have gone into the half being up 9 or 10, and we just turned defense into easy offense at the end of the half. And then Jason Tatum just came alive in the fourth quarter. So we closed it out at the end of each half the right way. That's what good teams do. Best defensive performance, honestly, I've seen out of the Celtics probably in a couple of years since that league-leading defense. I mean, we were just all over everyone, creating, like I just said, easy offense off of great defense. Everyone was active with their hands. And, honestly, the defense probably still could have played way better, too. They got a lot of wide-open threes. But, all kudos to the defense. Second straight game holding the opponent under 100 points. I mean, this is up there for one of the marquee wins in Joe Mazzulla's young coaching career, in my opinion.
Yeah, this was a game where I felt the Celtics kind of came off sluggish a little bit. Like the Knicks did not look like they were on a second half of a back-to-back. They played yesterday afternoon against the Hornets. But I feel like they came down to reality in the second half. Okay, so usually on the second nights of back-to-backs, you usually see that happen where first half it feels like, oh my gosh, these guys are invincible. They can't miss. They're hitting anything open. They're hitting anything covered. Like all hell's breaking loose. And then typically that third quarter, they come out a little bit sluggish. Their momentum's gone, and the other team kind of takes advantage of that. But the Celtics did that tonight. I do agree with you, David. I think the defense could have been sharper for sure. And here we are, trying to critique here when we won by 16. I feel like that's a little nitpicking on our end, but at the same time, it's true. I feel like the Knicks missed a lot of really good open looks, but at the same time, I think in the first half especially, they hit a lot of really tough looks, including one circus shot where Josh Hart threw it off the back of Holiday and nailed the three in the corner. they were hitting ridiculous shots. But you got to give Boston credit for their defense. As you mentioned, David, this is now the second straight game where the Celtics have held their opponent to under 100 points and got the win while doing so. Celtics were 3-0 on this homestand, which to me was very, very important because you go on the road, your first little road trip of the season. You go to Philly, you go to Brooklyn, and you go to, where was it, Minnesota. That's very awkward geographical road trip for the Celtics. They weren't able to handle business. It wasn't pretty. Even the win against the Nets wasn't the prettiest. They had the ground shot went out in the end. They went 1-2 on the road trip. Tough overtime loss to the Timberwolves and a tough 3-point loss to the Philadelphia 76ers. We talk about good teams. Good teams bounce back. It's all about how you respond. And I know it's only November. I know there's still a long way to go. Whether we went 3-0 or 0-3 in this homestand, still a long way to go in the regular season. But for the Celtics to bounce back with 3 straight blowout wins on their home court against 3 teams that give you trouble, but at the same time, you're more than qualified to beat, that's huge to me, Franco.
Yeah, this team's journey is going to be really based on what Joe Mazzulla can throw together with this roster. The skill and talent that this team brings can just beat teams alone. These average teams that they have coming in, these teams that are going to be playing for a play-in opportunity. The skill alone can beat these teams like New York and Minnesota. But when it comes down to it, it's just going to be bringing it every single night. Right. And the fact that the starting line played 30 minutes tonight all together and all contributed is huge. So I want to see more minute restriction. It's really early in the season, so I don't want those guys getting burned out or have any chance of getting injured when it gets down to those final 5 minutes and we've pulled away in the fourth quarter like we did tonight. And Lord forbid something happens. I would love to see players like Brissett come in and just finish up the job for them.
Yeah, and I think an interesting storyline, too, to watch this season is just how can the Celtics protect home court, or how well can they protect home court? Because I think one of the main things I remember with how last season ended is just watching the post-game show on NBC Sports Boston, seeing Eddie House lose it because, we had 2 straight seasons, again, not to dive into playoffs in the last couple of years because the last couple of years are the last couple of years, but the last 2 seasons, we've gotten eliminated on our home floor. And even taking playoffs out of the picture, the last 2 seasons before this one have had a lot of ugly losses on the parquet. So good teams defend their home court, and we stay undefeated so far. Again, it's early, but to see how well we've defended home court, see us close out a game like this tonight, which, again, like you were talking about, Justin, we easily could have lost earlier. See us perform well in the fourth quarter and execute and protect the home court, get a win for the fans in front of us. I mean, that's encouraging to see. So, we've seen all the good teams in the past. Like I remember Golden State in the early days of their dynasty won 54 games in a row at home. The Sixers in that bubble season before COVID happened, they only had 1 loss at home. The Spurs that same year that the Warriors were setting all those records only lost 1 game at home. Point is, good teams, the best teams in the league are going to be the ones that play well at home. So we're answering the bell with that so far.
Yeah, I feel like Boston never had control of this game until late. And when I say Boston, I mean Jason Tatum. And let me just say, it was a team effort tonight. We had some phenomenal performances that we're going to get to. But Jason Tatum is tonight's player of the game, player spotlight. He had 35 points, which was a game high, 6 rebounds, 7 assists, 13-23 shooting, which I believe is a 53% clip, something like that. And he was a plus 12 tonight. Jason Tatum, as we take a quick look at the player of the game tracker of this season, Jason Tatum has 4 of the awards. He leads the way. Jaylen Brown won last game. He's put together a very good stretch, very solid stretch since that struggling road trip. But Jason Tatum tonight, fellas, he was on something. 35 points total. 21 of those came in the second half. Franco, I love the aggression from Jason Tatum. I feel like this was the first game where, and again, I'm going to sound like I'm nitpicking, but I'm really not. I'm just kind of trying to point something out. This is the first game where we saw Jason Tatum be aggressive away from the basket and shoot the three ball. But to be fair, he hit 5 of his 12 threes, and he was feeling it, and they all came important down the stretch late in the game.
That's where Tatum's really going to come into his own this season, when he has those isolations, one-on-ones that he can obviously win against probably 95% of the league. There's only a few top-tier defenders that can guard up to what Jason Tatum can do, not just because of how skilled he is, but how versatile he is. He can drive on you, and the fact that we are nitpicking the fact that he can drive on one night and then light you up from 3 the next. Right. That's a really good thing to complain about. So what we're going to see from him is just being that floor general kind of first option scorer, and then let the rest fall into place with Jaylen Brown slashing, Drew doing his thing, and Kristaps being the interior and stretch big that this team needs.
Yeah, and I just love seeing how much in these first 10 games Tatum's going into the post. I mean, we keep talking about it, but like tonight, he was just picking on Josh Hart in the post, and he got a couple and ones on him, had a couple fadeaway J's over Josh Hart. Like, this is just the maturity we're seeing from Jason Tatum. And I'd like to think, and I believe this is valid, that with the new assistant head coaches coming in, like a Sam Cassell has probably worked with them and told him to get into the post more. I mean, there is that clip with Ime when he first came to Boston where they were training the Olympics, and Tatum was posting up Ime, and Ime was telling him, you got to be a bully. Like, let's play some bully ball. And like, we're finally seeing him consistently buy into that. And again, you know, I don't want to nitpick him again because, you know, we all love the Jays. I didn't love his shot selection at first, but then, you know, everything started to fall. He started to go to the rim a little bit more, started to work in the post a little bit more, draw some fouls. Right. And then at the end, it was just, you know, typical ridiculous Tatum hitting a 3 over Mitchell Robinson. We haven't seen that signature move too much from it. Like, remember how everyone earlier in his career was saying that signature move of him stepping to the side? Sidestep. Yeah, we saw that tonight when he hit that pretty much dagger 3 over Randall. I mean, it's just fun to see a little throwback Tatum there. But, I mean, he got out to a slow start, like you said, Justin, and then he just popped off in the fourth, and then also with his playmaking, too. Shout out to that, 7 assists tonight. So, all around, another good game for Tatum.
Yeah, shout out to Derek White, by the way, setting Tatum up for that, grabbing that steal on the break and then kicking it out. Tatum, sidestep 3 dagger over Julius Randle, which Julius Randle shot the 3 ball okay tonight, but I don't know how the hell he got into the 3-point contest. I believe it was last year or the year before, and it was like one of the worst 3-point contest performances I think I've ever seen.
Bad his son was crying.
That's right, his son was crying. Well, listen, I want to talk about a couple guys here. First of all, Kristaps Porzingis and Jaylen Brown, their connection both on the court and off the court has been impeccable. Probably one of the best relationships that you would want to have on your team. Kristaps Porzingis and Jaylen Brown tonight combined for 43 points, 11 rebounds, 9 assists, a steal and a block. Both those guys have been connecting. I love the little 2-man game that they play. We saw it a lot of that 2-man game in the Toronto game. And we saw a little bit here tonight. I love the pick and pop. I think Kristaps, and David, you, me, and Finn talked about Kristaps Porzingis and what he does for this team and what he brings. That pick and pop and his ability to rim roll at the same time is just so important for this team. Like, we're going to talk about him defensively, like just him standing there in the lane, 7'3" is enough. But for him to be able to rim roll as well as shoot the 3 ball has been huge for the Celtics. And I feel like, David, we haven't had anything like that. I at least not in a while.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the closest is like an Al Horford back in the day when we first signed him. But KP, with all due respect to Al 1.0 on the Celtics, like this just feels different, and it is different. Where like the play that sticks out to me with KP tonight in the pick and pop was right after the timeout. I think it was in the third quarter. We were all knotted up at 58, or we were down 1. It was like 59-58. Derek White brought up the ball, Porzingis pick, and then he popped White hit him for the 3 and he drilled it. And like, that was a big moment. And, we talked about this in the recap for the game against Toronto, but it's insane how everything and more that we expected out of Kristaps Porzingis is coming into effect with how he can affect this offense. You have to respect all 5 guys on the court, assuming that we're playing the starters in the situation we're about to talk about. But like, you have to respect all 5 guys on the court as an offensive threat, something that we haven't really had the luxury of watching for years. And you can't double team any of them because you'll leave an offensive threat open. He opens up the paint, which, led to a nice layup towards the end of the game by Tatum, where he was able to just attack the rim. So he just does everything for us. And that connection with Jaylen Brown has been as good as advertised. Even Drew Holiday against Toronto was, finding him for a lot of alley-oops. We definitely have to come up with a nickname for JB and KP. I was thinking the Building Bros because they both live in the same apartment building, but we got time.
Yeah, KP's work down low and on the defensive side has been so valuable to this team. The fact that he was able to match up with Mitchell Robinson and be able to switch in and off Julius Randle whenever he was matched up with Sam Hauser or someone that he was able to push by in the post. His ability to slide and get to those positions is exactly what Rob Williams brought to our team last year, but he's 7'3" and is much more, not more athletic, but has much more of a range of area he covers when he's down low. And he's basically everywhere when it comes to that first shot attempt, and also is huge when it comes to that second rebound when the first rebound misses. He's cleaning up the paint down low. What I love is he's got the KG-esque finishes down low when it's a one-handed finish and one as he's falling to the ground on an alley-oop putback. That's just amazing for this team. And once he just finds that intensity, and he's a very mellow guy, just like Tatum. So it's really just flowing with this offense, and what he's bringing to the defense as well is something that I thought was going to be a weakness going into the season when we lost Robert Williams, not having that quote unquote glass cleaner shot blocker, but he's filled that role and broke all the stereotypes and concerns that were made about him before the season.
Do you guys get, okay, it's November. Do you guys get nervous when the Celtics are up double digits anymore? Or do you think, like last year, I got incredible amounts of anxiety when the Celtics would go up 10, 12, 15 points. Like I feel like it was just so frequent that the Celtics would just absolutely decimate and lose the lead and collapse and force threes and defensive lapses. We've seen glimpses of, like, I'm not saying this is all sunshine and rainbows perfect, like we're playing like historic basketball, but at the same time, Celtics, when they get a lead, they don't falter too much. At least not, especially in this game. Like, I feel like when the Celtics got up, they crept up a little bit. Started at 2, then it went up to 5, and then 7, and then all of a sudden you look up and, oh my God, Tatum hits a 3-point or a 4-point play. It's now 11. How have the Celtics been able to? Do you guys get nervous anymore, David? Do you get a little shaky when the Celtics go up there? A little PTSD rolling through the adrenaline here?
This season, I haven't honestly been nervous, and I don't want to jinx anything for the rest of the year. I don't want to come off as cocky, but like, it's just different, and I think it is literally different. Where I remember last year, Missoula was doing an interview on ESPN after like the third quarter. Or maybe it was after the game, but they had asked, like, we had come out of the half with a 20-point lead, and then after 3 quarters, it had gone all the way down to 2 in some random game or whatever. And Missoula said, like, yeah, basketball is just a game of runs, that's going to happen. Like, it's just a deadpan answer. And I'm like, that's technically true, but I don't really like that answer because it's almost like you're surrendering yourself to the fact that, like, you can't extend the lead at all. Whereas in these games this year, we've seen it where, like, the Toronto game, we'll go back to that. We came out of the half with a 9-point lead, I think, and then bumped it up to 21 points in like 4.5 minutes into the second half. And then tonight, when we finally were able to squeeze out a little bit of a lead and build away a bit from the Knicks, we kept them piling it on, especially in the fourth quarter late. So I do honestly think that the Celtics, this is just another form of us maturing and another form of the coaching staff maturing around Mazzulla and him maybe learning more on the job now, especially in his second year as a head coach, where we can continue to put our full throttle, continue to go for the kill, continue to be aggressive, and instead of just settling for shots, let's just keep piling on to the lead. And I think we're seeing that so far. But yeah, I don't feel nervous. And this is, again, just another encouraging thing to see where we're not resting on our morals once we build a lead. Like, we're not just relying on our efforts in just the first half just to carry us through the second half as we stumble through it. We're continuing to push through. So it's all encouraging to see.
It's like the old Julian Edelman adage, when you have them down, step on their neck and hold them down there. But
right, there you go.
It's so true for this season. It's so strictly business. You play them, the starting five, have Jason Tatum dribbling out the ball for the final buzzer. They're reviewing plays when they're up by 10 in the final 2 minutes, getting the other team's coaches pissed off. I absolutely love it. It's been just they're just pushing for this title harder than ever before. The bench is getting into it, and I was in the Garden the past 2 years when they were eliminated. You could feel the energy just drop in the Garden and the team feels that as well. Like, what was it? I think it was last year against Miami Heat when Tatum went down with that ankle roll.
Oh, yeah.
The whole Garden went just dead silent, and some people were trying to cheer him on, but it's just a different energy. They're holding it together. And when these 10-point leads, and Mazzulla is just proving that he wants it more than ever.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm going to be honest with you, I see fight in this team, and I don't know how to put it because I don't want to come off as like ungrateful for what Grant and Rob and Smart, but it's refreshing. It's really refreshing to see guys like Drew come in and Chris Stapps and even O'Shea Brissett off the bench. Like, we talked about this on the podcast in the offseason. When you go to make that championship push and you make these types of moves, it's either going to pay off in a great way or it's going to suck. It's really like there's no in between. Like back in 2007, right? Danny Ainge had to put together, okay, Pierce, we're Antoine Walker's gone. And Paul Pierce isn't winning. We're coming off of one of our worst seasons in franchise history. He had to make risks. Danny Ainge had to make risks. And one of those risks was sending 5 players and like 6 draft picks out to Minnesota to go get Kevin Garnett. And Al Jefferson was on the other end of that trade. And if you remember, Al Jefferson was a very, very talented big man. And he could have been a future piece in Boston, but Danny Ainge had to take a risk into buying in to other players and to take that next level. And we saw that with Brad Stevens this offseason when Marcus Smart, the heart and soul of this team, he had to make a tough decision. He knew Game 7 when Tatum rolled his ankle and the Celtics went down by 30 in Game 7 on their home court that they were not going to bring back the same team, right? So I think it was like very high risk and very high reward type thing when getting KP and getting Drew Holiday. And getting back to my point earlier, it's so nice to see that it's paying off in such a positive way. Putting a new team together is hard, let alone putting together. These guys have to gel. These guys have to become friends. These guys have to become brothers, teammates. Like, their whole lives change. So not only does the teams change on the court, but off the court, these guys have to make these relationships and build chemistry And for the Celtics to start, the new look Celtics to start 8-2, 5-0 at home, 2-0 against the Knicks, where the Celtics couldn't buy a win last year against the New York Knicks. It's just so important to me. And you talk about that winning culture, and you both have mentioned it. There's winning culture here. The Celtics are going. The Celtics are pushing for that title, and they're pushing right now. And for me to see them close out these games, we just spent the last 3 to 5 minutes talking about the Celtics not faltering when they're up. Winning teams don't falter like this. Occasionally they do. That's life. That's basketball. It's going to happen. I'm sure the Celtics are due. But for them to go down, what was it, 9 tonight, to come back, claw back, their offense sucked tonight. I'm not going to lie. The Celtics did not look good until late. They clawed back into the game. They made something out of nothing, and they walk out. They walk out with a 16-point victory. This game was not a 16-point victory. Same thing. These guys had hard against Philly last Wednesday. They went down 15 with 2 minutes left, and they ended up losing by 3. Kristaps Porzingis had a wide-open 3. It fell short, and we fell short of an overtime. Like, this team has fight. I'm extremely excited to see this team transpire. The Celtics got to go into Philly. I don't care if they're 8-2. I don't care if it's November. Philly beat you flat out last week. Go out on the road. They're 1 of your 2 losses. It's a beatable team. Philly's on fire right now. Joel Embiid playing MVP level. Tyrese Maxey 50 points. ESPN game. Go out there. If the Celtics shit the bed on ESPN after an 8-2 start, they just blew out their last 3 opponents, I'll cry. I don't know. I don't know what to say, Franco.
Silence Doris Burke.
Oh, no. I'm watching on NBC Sports Boston.
Yeah, of course. If you're not watching Gorman's final run, I don't know what you are watching. Like, even if ESPN or TNT has Shaq covering the game, I'm still not watching it. But like we've been saying, we love Smart, we love Grant, we love Rob.
It's refreshing.
They had their chance to win. And I kind of laugh because that team last year felt like a really scrappy team because of Marcus Smart and Grant Williams. Right. But this year they don't have to be jumping on the floor, flopping on the ground like idiots because they're
now you get a tag for it, so they definitely
you know, like I feel like unfortunately to say it, like a lot of Marcus Smart's greatest moments were caused by a fault from earlier that he had to make up for. Like, this team is just very on point. 1 through 4 quarters, you have to finish out the games, which was a real struggle for them. And the year Missoula having a full year under his belt is really showing. Sam Cassell's help. And also the ton of mentorship that they had during the offseason. I don't know there wasn't a player that so far that hasn't came in, and I'm very excited to see what alumni they have come to the Garden for some nights. But this is like all the chips are on the table right now. I feel like I've said this every episode, but the chips are in.
Yeah, it's going to be a great test on Wednesday night against Philly. A quick rematch from just a week ago where they bested us. I mean, they beat us fair and square, of course. Both losses, they tip your cap to Minnesota and Philly, but it's like, and again, we're definitely due for blowouts at some point this year. I mean, like Justin was just talking about, every team. No matter if you go on to win the championship, like every team gets blown out at least once every season. So that's going to happen. But like so far through 10 games, the closest game that we could have had to being a blowout was the Philly one, which was a blowout. But I mean, we fought until the end. Right.
We made it look pretty.
Exactly. And then it took 53 minutes for Minnesota to give us our first loss. So like this team is fighting. I think in years past, like maybe the last 2 seasons before this one, the question with the Celtics has been they can do it, but they're playing down to their opponents. The effort level just isn't there. I mean, when we went down 3-0 to Miami last year, Wick Grousbeck stormed in the locker room because, I mean, that game was just pathetic. Like, the effort was not there. Like, to lose by 30 is one thing, but to lose by 30 and not try is another thing, and that's what we saw then. but I haven't questioned the Celtics' effort at all this year. Yeah, there's things we nitpick, like we've always been nitpicking in the Missoula era, like they're and shout out Gary Washburn, he's nitpicking it too, like they're shooting too many threes or whatever. But the effort is there, and this is going to be a nice early season test to see if we can learn from our mistakes from just a week ago and get a win against a team that we honestly could be seeing in the playoffs at some point again.
Yeah, I feel like we're always going to be bound to see Philly at some point, whether it's in the playoffs, in the conference finals.
I think it's the most likely matchup in NBA playoff history, Celtics Sixers.
Yeah, I mean, they always find each other there. I mean, hey, if they want to take the regular season wins, they could take the regular season.
Already laid out. It's going to be Bucks Heat and whatchamacallit, 76ers.
Celtics. Yeah, that's probably what it could be. But yeah, I think tonight was just a very solid game. I do want to mention before kind of we sign off, I want to give Sam Hauser his flowers. Once again, he shot 4 of 6 tonight from deep. Just came ready to go. Just came ready to play. We talked about him struggling in the preseason and in the first 3 games of the regular season, but these last 6 games, he is just shooting at an astronomical 55.6% from 3. Which is just, it's bonkers. It's absolutely bonkers. I feel like every shot is going in, whether he's guarded or not. He has one of the smoothest release in the league. And I'm not just saying that because he's on the Celtics. I mean, he is just a poetry shot. And when his misses look good, like he's got to be one of the only players in the league, maybe outside of Steph, where his misses are like the best misses in the league. He's just a treat to watch. I think he's getting better defensively as well. I really do think he's starting to get I don't know. I still wouldn't put him on an island. I definitely think I do give him his props. So I definitely think his footwork is a lot better. His mobility is a lot better. He's definitely improving. And I'm glad the Celtics signed him to an extension. I believe it was last offseason. So not this past one, but the one before that. But Sam Hauser has looked phenomenal. They're going to need every bit of this, Franco, because yes, it's only game 10 of the regular season, but we know Sam Hauser is going to stick around, and we know we're going to need him come April, come May, and hopefully come June.
It's just going to be his game is really going to fit into any rotation we have and is applicable to any part of the game. If it's down to the final minute, we can have him on the court for that final shot as one of those options. If we need a last second 3, he needs to round out his game. There was one part that made me laugh tonight when he got the wide open layup.
Yeah, and he smoked
fast break. That's where players like O'Shea Brissett are playing in the rotation next to him, and he can pass it off to them, and they can do that type of thing. But every team needs that shooter that they can rely on and be that consistent piece to come in for Derek White or one of the Jays and fill in. And the fact that they kind of really have the rotation down with Al, I think that's going to be more of what we're going to see in the playoffs. And Luke's going to be a DNP coach's decision. And like
he's been playing all right, though. We got to give him.
Of course, he's been playing all right. It's a shame that we put him on the graphic tonight and we didn't get to promote him.
That is true. Yeah. Wow.
We'll talk to our graphic designer about that. We'll talk to our graphic designer about that. Oh gosh.
But everyone has their role.
It's such a Luke Cornett thing. Sorry, that's such a him. Of course, the one time we put him on the graphic, but sorry.
Yeah, everyone was brought to this team for a reason, and they're all gonna play their specific role when it comes time to do that thing. And tonight wasn't Luke's night, but there's plenty of other games.
Take it away, David.
Yeah, I mean, sorry to our, what is he, a bus one boy? What is, sorry,
yeah.
bus one, Luke Cornett. We'll make it up to you next time.
I feel like he watches this show. Like, there's a very high percentage that he's an avid listener of us.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
We give him all of his advice. That's why he's doing better.
Right, definitely. Yeah, I'll say Sam Hauser. He's been great the last 6 games, like you talked about, Justin. It's safe to say, I think, at least early in the season, that he's our most reliable option off the bench so far, and he's come to play. I know Rob's definitely happy because I remember in the post-game shows a couple of years ago when Hauser was first on the team, he was begging for Hauser to play, and now he's, finally not blocked on the bench. He's probably, he's going to get at least 15, 20 minutes off the bench a night. And he's like your own Duncan Robinson. He's just a knockdown 3-point shooter. His defense, like you said, is getting better. We're going to be expecting a lot out of him, and he's answering the call right now. And he's going to go through ups and downs. Like this stretch is going to end. Not to get negative, but he's been on fire the last 6 games, and he's just given us good minutes, which is all you can honestly ask for out of the bench. Like Franco is talking about with. And you guys, we were all talking about with Cornett, our favorite now, the graph.
There it is. There it is. The Luke Cornett game, the game day graphic that Luke Cornett snuck in. And what's funny about this is he didn't put a bench player in front of him. He put Jaylen Brown in front of him, which to me makes it even funnier. It's not like he could have thrown in like a Benton or something.
That's great.
And Mitchell Robinson with the baby face. I can't. Oh, we're gonna have to talk to our design graphic team.
I think we need more of it.
Yeah.
It's funny, like my friend, when I reposted the story because I was tagged on it that we're doing this post-game show, my friend DM'd me. He's like, "Why the heck is Luke Cornett on the graphic?" I'm like, "Oh, that's a great question." So that was foreshadowing.
That's a
tonight.
great.
No, it's just all good things from the bench lately,
Oh, totally.
Doing enough, we're not expecting the world out of them. We knew the bench could be a point of concern this year with how much depth we overhauled. But, another great game from Hauser, and Pritchard showing the energy. Horford, it's clear Father Time's hitting Horford, but, he's giving us solid minutes.
Oh, no, Anna Horford.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Horford already tacked onto our show here when Ian said Al was halfway in his grave. Now we're really going to get it.
Look, no. I saw
David, David, you're the Twitter guy. You're really going to get
I'm going to get into a Twitter war with her.
Maybe we'll throw Al in the game D graphic and fix things up really good here.
We'll tag Anna Horford on it on Instagram. There we go.
Good. We'll be fine.
If she ever wants to come on the show, if you're listening, Anna, you can always talk about the post game with us. You're always welcome. But we'll always love Al.
Right.
Obviously, I think we all want him to get a ring. Like that would just be the perfect way for him to end his Celtics career. And he's given us good minutes. It's just clear, we can't expect the 15 to 20 points. The last 2 seasons we got out of Al was just a luxury. Like, shout out to the Thunder for resting him for the second half of that COVID season, because he really carried us in that Bucks series in the playoffs on the way to the finals. Correct. He was on a roll analytically last year, shooting the 3 ball. Yeah, it was just, it's going to happen. But I think the 3 solid guys off the bench we can expect all year: Horford, Hauser, and then Pritchard, and then maybe by extension Cornett. As long as they can just do what they keep doing, we should be good.
Yeah, I think it's really important, though, with Al Horford that he continues to get the reps. I think he's putting in solid minutes. I think the rebounding tonight was very solid from Al Horford off the bench. But the Celtics take care of business. They go 3-0 in their 3-game homestand with 3 blowout wins against the Brooklyn Nets, the Toronto Raptors, and a New York Knicks team where that's a divisional sweep, boys. The Celtics sweep 3 division opponents. That's huge. They play their 4th divisional opponent in a row on Wednesday night, November 15th at 7:30 p.m. You can catch the game on ESPN nationally, or if you're local, I would tune in to Drew Carter and Brian Scalabrine. Drew Carter has been phenomenal on the call. This
friend of the
month.
Twitter.
Yeah, friend of the Twitter. He followed us. He's a really cool guy. I've gotten to have a couple conversations with him. 25 years old, which is cool. Seeing somebody our age do
26.
26 now. 26.
He gets mad when people call him, when people say he's 25.
Okay, well, 26 years old. He's not like Tatum then, where we call Tatum 19. We should start Drew Carter. You're only 25, buddy. But I think it's awesome. I think Drew Carter has been. I can't wait to welcome him into my living room for years to come, because I really do. I maybe I sound biased, but he's got an amazing voice. He has incredible awards. He had the education for it, and now he has some huge shoes to fill, fellas. But if there's a guy to do it, I think it's Drew Carter. Now 26 years old. He has a whole life ahead of him, and we'll get to hear his voice Wednesday night. So make sure you guys tune in to Celtics Sixers, Game 11 of the regular season. We will be here for Celtics Post Game Live right after the game. So come back here on Wednesday. Hopefully we're talking about a Celtics win, but if not, we'll still be here talking to you Celtics basketball. For now, that's Franco. That's David. I'm Justin.